So Putin has agreed to ceasefire. Let's directly jump into the video.
We agree with the propositions to stop hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that such ceasefire should be such that would lead to a permanent peace and remove the original causes of the crisis.
This is a major climb down because most of the analysts were expecting that Putin would not agree to the ceasefire violations. What if ceasefire happens? Putin is talking about that.
I really hope common sense tells everyone how it's going to look like, what it's going to look like. Who's going to give orders to cease the hostilities? And what will be the price of those orders? Just imagine 2,000 kilometers. Who's going to determine who broke the ceasefire along those 2,000 kilometers? And who's going to lay blame on others for breaking this agreement? Those are all issues that require very careful studying from both sides.
So Putin, this is very important, guys. What Putin is saying is that, yes, we are agreeing to ceasefire right now, but who will ensure that Ukraine will not break the ceasefire, or maybe even Russia would not break the ceasefire? Who will monitor tomorrow if there is a ceasefire violation? Who is going to monitor, like, who was wrong if there are no peacekeeping forces? So this is important. So I don't think Putin has ever said that he's happy with peacekeeping forces. In fact, he's been against that. So I'm not sure if Putin does not want peacekeeping forces, then how does he plan to make sure that he holds Ukraine accountable if what he claims becomes true, that Ukrainians again start pounding, which I don't know, seems unlikely because they want to rearm themselves right now. So this one was really important. So let's have a look at other videos. Okay, this one is really interesting. Putin is talking about what if Ukraine uses the ceasefire to rearm itself. This one is really interesting. I think let's have a look at this video.
Is the ceasefire going to be used to continue forced mobilization, to continue rearming, to continue supplies of weaponry, to allow military units to regroup? But if nothing like this is done, then the question is bound to arise. How is control and verification going to go? Is the ceasefire going to be used to continue forced
Putin
mobilization?
here is saying, he is saying that, what if Ukraine rearms and remobilizes and, just re-energizes itself? And how can he ensure that this does not happen? So I think here is where Donald Trump will kick in. And if Donald Trump can somehow assure Vladimir Putin that Ukraine will not rearm itself, then probably there could be some kind of consensus. But how will that happen? Because the defense ministers just met in Ukraine, the European defense minister, and in fact, Ursula is talking, the European Union chief is talking about 800 billion euro rearming Europe kind of exercise. So with that kind of rearmament, where are those weapons going to go? Those weapons, at least a large chunk of those weapons would be supplied to Ukraine. So I'm not sure how this will pan out. In the longer run, I genuinely believe that the Europeans will supply more weapons and Ukrainians will mobilize troops. And because Zelensky has clearly made a statement yesterday that he's not willing to accept the Russian occupied territory as Russian territories. So maybe he will in future, just like Putin did a U-turn today. Maybe he will. But right now, it does not look like the Europeans are going to stop arming Europe at this point of time. Oh, okay, this one is interesting as well. He's saying what will happen to the Ukrainian troops who were captured in Kursk.
In this situation, I think the Ukrainian side might well want to achieve at least 30 days of ceasefire. And we're in favor of that, but there are nuances though. Number one is what we're going to do with this sector of breached state border. If we stop the hostilities for 30 days, what it's going to mean? will that mean that everybody there is going to retreat without fighting? Are we going to have to let them go after all the atrocities they have perpetrated against civilians? Or the Ukrainian leadership will command them to lower their weapons, drop their weapons and just surrender? How is it going to look? That's still unclear.
This is a very valid question. So, right now there are thousands of troops in Kursk, Ukrainian troops, and Russians have captured them and they have surrendered. Now, what will happen to those troops? Will the Ukrainians take them back? And those troops who are still fighting with the Russian troops, are they going to kind of stop and stay there, or are they going to retreat? I'm sure this is going to be discussed with the US officials over there, because Kursk certainly is at the center of the conversation right now, because that is where Vladimir Putin would immediately want some clarifications on with the Americans, and I don't know if he's going to talk with the Ukrainians. Here, I think this seems to be interesting.
And I spoke to Vladimir Zelensky, and I told him, don't look for someone to blame. We will look for them later, because the war is going on now. It's occurring now in your territory, in the territory of Ukraine. And then I told him, remember this, because that's how it always happens. Tomorrow, the leadership will change in America, and what will happen with you? So it was as if I could predict the future. So answering your questions, Ukrainians should have ceased fire a long time ago and joined negotiations.
So Lukashenko over here is claiming that he had a conversation with Zelensky where he warned Zelensky that the American leadership keeps changing. And what will happen to Zelensky when his backers, that is Biden administration, would not be there. And that's exactly seems to be happening over here right now. As soon as the US administration changed, like basically he does not have any support.
For Ukraine's readiness to stop the hostilities. You know, the Ukrainian-American meeting in Saudi Arabia might look on the outside as Ukraine arriving to a decision under America's pressure, but in reality, I'm absolutely convinced that Ukraine should have asked about that, should have implored America, proceeding, considering the situation that is unfolding on the ground. And as for
Strange. So Putin is saying that Ukraine is being bashed on the battlefield. Hence, Ukraine was the one who should have followed up with Donald Trump for ceasefire, or probably would have requested for ceasefire.
not publicly yet, but still, we are already negotiating about some businesses returning to our market, all in atmosphere of mutual respect and observing mutual interests.
So just 24 hours back, Donald Trump said that he would put more sanctions, more financial sanctions on Russia if Russia does not agree to the ceasefire. But now Putin is talking about trade, opening up more trade with the United States and the West. This is like unbelievable stuff.
As for Ukraine's preparedness to cease fire, well, let me tell you, as I see it. But first of all, I would like to start with words of gratitude to the President of the United States, Mr. Trump, for paying so much attention to the Ukraine settlement. All of us have a lot on our plates, but many state leaders, the chairman of the Chinese People's Republic, the Prime Minister of India, President of Brazil, and South African Republic, all pay a lot of attention and devote a lot of time to this issue, and we are thankful to them because it's all aimed at the noble cause of stopping hostilities and stopping human casualties. As for
So clearly, Putin is now thanking Donald Trump and leaders like Xi Jinping, Narendra Modi of India, and South African president and many other countries for helping him. These are shocking moments. I can see some of the journalists over there a bit disappointed, who are probably on the side of Russia.
going on there currently, the situation is absolutely under our control. And the enemy contingent that broke into our territory is currently isolated. It's complete isolation. And it's under complete fire control. Troop management within this zone is absolutely lost all control of the troops. And while a week or two, what is going on there currently?
So the gas pipeline operation where Russian troops actually entered Sudza through the gas pipeline into the Kursk region, it was a success, and Putin is basically validating that over here as we speak. Let's see what Lukashenko is saying, because Lukashenko was sitting next to Vladimir Putin when he was making all of these statements. So let's have a look at what he's saying.
Were they discussing the rare earth metals in the beginning of the war, the Americans? No, and now they raised this matter. They did not agree on this, and they will have to implement this now. They will send old minerals, they will send their rare earth minerals and many other things. So either him or a new president will come back here, and he will look for strength, for power here. But someone wants us to kill each other. We understand this, the other side does not understand this. Were they discussing?
Lukashenko, Belarus leader, is saying that earlier there was no demand about rare earth minerals from Ukraine, but now there is a sudden demand of rare earth minerals. So if this war was about rare earth minerals, is what Lukashenko is implying. He's basically blaming the Western elites that this war was basically fought for Ukraine's minerals. Is that what he's saying? And Putin seems to be supporting him when he was saying that.
As for import substitution and everything that comes along with it, be it illegitimate restrictions, called sanctions. Well, first of all, our so-called partners, I think, made us a great favor. In fact, indeed, an inoculation of sovereignty and self-sufficiency. So all our programs aimed at achieving technological sovereignty will be continued. We haven't withdrawn from anyone. We haven't closed our borders. For everyone wanting to come back, we're saying welcome, welcome back at any second. But of course, we will be proceeding from the situation that we currently have. If a niche is occupied, there will be no preferences for anybody coming back. Moreover, the government has already been instructed within the WTO norms, but still, they will be instructed to ensure that our domestic manufacturers have certain advantages and preferences.
So Putin clearly expecting Western companies to enter the Russian market again. This is coming as a shocker because no one was expecting something like this. And Lukashenko is saying something. Let's have a look at what he's saying.
We agreed with Mr. President that we will overcome everything. We will do everything to make sure that our peoples were among the best in the world. We do not want anything that does not belong to us, but we will not let anyone to take anything from us. That's our strong, firm position. Thank you. We agreed.
So Lukashenko saying here that they don't want anyone else's land and resources. I think they're saying that they are not interested in invading any other country. So this is what Lukashenko seems to be implying over here. Okay, he's talking about mobilization. Let's have a look at what he's saying over here.
We know how to respond to this, and over these 3 years we were under very extensive pressure, and it helps you to mobilize, and we've achieved a lot, so we plan on keeping going along this path, and we will only accept things that we need. I think it's only right, and we discuss it with Mr. President a lot of times. So we are not shutting ourselves out from anyone. We will welcome you back, considering the situation on the ground under our conditions, and we will only take what we really need.
Okay, so he's talking about mobilize. This one is important. They're talking about energy. Let's have a look at what they're saying about energy.
I would like to add to what President Lukashenko said about the fact that Europe is done for if the United States and Russia agree on something. Well, yes, if the United States and Russia agree, for example, on cooperation in energy, in the field of energy, then the pipeline for Europe will be something that will bring about the end of getting the cheap Russian gas, supplying the cheap Russian gas.
Vladimir Putin is saying that if United States wants, then Russia can again start supplying gas. So everything is looking as if nothing happened and they just want to patch up. It's unbelievable because this is completely unexpected. I don't know how Europeans will react to it. For 48 hours back, there was a meeting of defense ministers of major EU countries. They were planning to kind of rearm themselves against Russia. So tomorrow I'll track the reactions from Europe. He talks about his conversation with Donald Trump over here. Let's see what he says about Trump.
So the very idea is great, I think, is correct, and we, of course, support it. There are, though, certain issues that we still need to look into and to discuss. And we need to hold consultations with our American partners, counterparts. Maybe we need to have a phone talk with President Trump to discuss that with him as well. But the very idea of ending this conflict in a peaceful
So
manner.
Putin clearly says that despite his agreement to the ceasefire proposal, he will have a conversation with Donald Trump to kind of sort out the details. He has also thanked Donald Trump. Okay, so he talks about the next steps. Let's have a look at what he says.
Depending on how the situation on the ground is, so based on this, we will agree on further steps on ending the conflict and on reaching agreements that would be acceptable for everyone.
So I think there's going to be some kind of negotiation between Russians and the Americans on the details of the ceasefire and the next steps. So he just confirmed a temporary stoppage of pounding each other, but I think there's a lot more that's going to happen right now. So folks, these were the important bits of today's press conference of Vladimir Putin and Lukashenko. They both were sitting together, and that is where Vladimir Putin basically accepted the ceasefire of 30-day ceasefire plan suggested by Donald Trump. This was completely unexpected. A lot of people were expecting that Vladimir Putin would reject it because he was till yesterday insisting that long-term demands from Ukraine be fulfilled, like Ukraine's rejection of NATO membership, recognizing of territories which Russia has occupied of Ukraine, all of these things. But Vladimir Putin clearly has taken a step back. This is a climb down from Vladimir Putin. Trump will be given due credit for something like this. This was unimaginable. Certainly Joe Biden would not have done something like this. Donald Trump has brought peace, at least temporarily for a few days. We have to see whether the ceasefire will last or not, because Zelensky does not seem to be in favor of this, even though he claims, because he just attacked Moscow yesterday with hundreds of drones. So we'll have to see how the ceasefire plans out, but at least publicly Vladimir Putin has accepted this 30-day ceasefire. Now the ball is in Trump's court, so I'll keep a very close track of this. Do subscribe to my channel and like this video. This is DG signing off from the Macro Story. See you in the next video.